Most of the day's probably dry. And go up only to 72. I'm meteorologist Ray Stevie from the Weather Channel on WMAL.
Currently 67 degrees, headed up to 80 at 8:56.
Small business owners deserve the best for their business.
Good evening, good afternoon, everybody. This is Friday. Friday the 28th. This is the DCRDV World Headquarters. As you can see, there's my massive DVD collection. These are my radio reception gear, TV reception gear, my DVR that keeps losing sound. You know, my Comcast DVR. It's like about 5 or 6 times a night you have to change channels just to get the sound to come back on. Well, anyhow, it's Friday, the 28th. Not wearing my camos this morning again either. Well, technically, I still haven't gotten dressed. Ah! Oh, there's some more of my DVDs back there. What else can I show you? There's my on-air sign. There's some of my. These are some of my DVDs, CDs down here. I've got XTC. Remember them? The Who, Wire. I love Wire. Wire's one of my favorite bands. These are all the end ones because this is the end of the collection. Zed and Two Knot soundtracks. Frank Zappa, some U2, Achtung Baby, probably one of my favorite albums of all time. 10cc. I remember Remember this guy. Matt Johnson, he was great. I love him a lot. Back in the 80s, early 90s. Tones on Tail, Train Spotting soundtracks, Talking Heads, Stranglers. Well, this is one of my favorite albums of all time. Stranglers, Feline. Yeah. But anyhow, then the S's are over here. Got Severed Heads, Smiths. Then they go way back over there. There's all the other ones, the A's and the B's and the New Orders and the Cures and all over there. We're just waiting to see if Bryan Nehman does a farewell today. So it's almost noon. It's almost 9. I'm just curious to see if they're going to say goodbye, Bryan, because this is the last broadcast day of September. So let's see if Bryan says goodbye. We're still running, still making that money for Cumulus. You know, every penny counts there.
And filling over the most refined locations.
Come on. There's my radio. See that there? It's got HD radio on it. But who listens to it? Now that HFS isn't there anymore. What do I care? Or 94.7. It's no longer there. Okay.
I got my Obama phone with me. How about you? No, I got my
The psychotic Chris Plant.
Yeah, I want to. I actually, by the way, and hers. I want to. Yeah, I want to start with the Obama phone thing. What's wrong with the Obama phone? You know, people need phones. What's the matter with you? Don't you want to pay for other people's phones? You're cruel.
105.9.
Okay, well.
AM 630. Washington.
So that means Bryan Nehman's going to be back next week. So he's going to be continuing. You know, he's supposed to be going to WBAL radio in October, but they didn't say goodbye. You don't say goodbye. Remember that was one of my favorite lines from remember that Curb Your Enthusiasm. There's one episode where you don't say goodbye. So anyhow, either that was the end of Bryan Nehman on WMAL. No goodbye. Just he'll be gone next week. Or he'll be back in October. If he's going to BAL, BAL says middle of the month, maybe late October, so I guess he could work another week. I don't know. What do you know? Oh, hold on. Excuse me for just a moment. I left something over here. You know, in the Washington Post, they have this thing called China Watch, which is basically the Chinese government, buys this supplement thing, and I think once a month they run it. It's like a little newspaper that's basically propaganda, you know. But the Washington Post prints it in there, and of course it's mentioned this is an advertising supplement. I guess if, you know, if Iran or Libya or whoever would come to the Post and say, hey, can we run a supplement? Post would go, sure, show us the money. But, you know, that's okay. You know, nobody ever reads this thing. Whenever you, it's funny when you go to Starbucks and, you know, people read their Washington Post and then stick them in the little bin there where other people can come read them. There's always a huge pile of these China watches. And I think there's a Russian one, too, that comes out. So, you know, it's nice to see the Washington Post is getting funded. Even if it's losing American subscribers, it is getting funded by the Chinese and the Russians. But anyhow, this is a big double-page ad in the middle of the A section today of China Watch, and telling us that the Diaoyu Islands belong to China. Some kind of a dispute there. Who's claiming it? Japan or somebody's claiming these islands? But I'm glad to see the Washington Post getting funded by China and Russia. You know, at least China and Russia will make sure that we still have our grand dame Washington Post. Okay, whatever. Michael Savage, apparently, if you like Michael Savage, you won't be hearing him on the radio for at least a couple of months. He apparently had a big dispute with his syndicator employer TRN Talk Radio Network and was heard locally on WTNT and WCBM. Apparently, they did a big arbitration. He's been fighting them for years, trying to get out of his contract for whatever reason. Anyhow, he got out of the contract. The arbitrator agreed yesterday to let him out of the contract, so he's off the air, so you won't be hearing Michael Savage on the radio for a while. He promises, though, to be back. So, you know, whatever. What do you say to that, huh? And what else is going on these days? Okay, here's an interesting thing. Laurie, I think it's Cantillo, however you say her name. She's the program director at WTOP. She was brought in last year to, basically help Jim. Jim Farley's the head of programming at WTOP, but she's right below him. She's the program director. So Jim Farley's, a bigwig over there. So she helps him out and does the programming, a lot of the programming stuff over there at All News or WTOP. Well, big news was came out yesterday, it actually happened Wednesday, that she'd been walking through, running. She's in a running group and was running up in Silver Spring there near Rock Creek Park and felt something on her head. And it turned out to be an owl trying to make a nest in her hair. I don't know what. But she got the owl off, and she said she had a small injury on her head, but it wasn't serious. And she did tell me that she's actually Googled, and there's been a number of owl attacks in that area. You know, I guess these owls get, I don't know, maybe they're looking for mates. I don't know. But so that's just, I honestly, when I go walking around here, I do a lot of walking. A lot of these little birds live in these bushes. We have big bushes around here. And as you walk by, they'll shoot out. And literally, within an inch of you, zoom past you. And you're like, they haven't hit me yet, but they've come really close, But anyhow, I'm just having this theory that CBS Radio, which is running the rival All News or WNEW, Steve Swenson over there has got his gang together and they're training attack owls over there in Lanham. They've got a little hutch thing set up behind Parliament Place there. And they're training attack owls and they're training them to attack WTOP staff members. I think that's the truth. And Laurie Cantillo was the first one. If I was Joel Oxley or Jim Farley or any of those WTOPers, Bob Madigan or Marburg or any of them, I'd be really nervous. And I'd say, wear a helmet when you go outside. Put a helmet or a big, thick, heavy hat on because those owls are coming for you. And they're being trained by Steve Swenson. I have reliable sources that tell me that. I'll tell you, they want that station, and they're going to do psychological warfare to get it. Hubbard, you better sell, or those owls are coming for you. John Chester is retiring from WETA. I love John. He's one of those voices that just he blows you away on the radio. I can't do it. John Chester. For years, he worked at WGMS. His voice was just synonymous with that great classical commercial station. And he worked there for many years. He worked there, and then he went up to Boston for a while. Then he came back there. Anyhow, when WGMS went off the air in 2007, remember that whole debacle when, got moved over from 103.5 to 104.1 and 103.9, and then it went, eventually, then Hubbard, or not Hubbard, but Bonneville put that George 104 there on for a while there on 104.1, and then basically some of the staff and the music library from WGMS went over to WETA, and they flipped back to an all-classical format in early 2007, and John went with them. So John's been doing the afternoon drive show there and some of the overnight shifts at WETA-FM 90.9. Well, he's retiring at the end of the year and is going to head down to beautiful retirement there in North Carolina with his wife. He'll still be heard on WETA-FM doing overnight side voice tracking, where he can sit there in a little home studio and do little snippets, and then they digitally send it up here to the studio and insert it in the program stream. So we'll still be able to hear John's great voice, hopefully many, many, many more years. So tip of the old camel cap, which I don't have on right now, to John Chester. All right, folks, that's Dave TV for today. Friday the 28th. Still no Bryan Nehman farewell on WMAL. What's up with that? Is he going to be back next week, or is he gone and he'll just mysteriously be missing next week? Who knows? We will keep you updated. Thanks for watching Dave TV right here, DCR TV. Live long and prosper.